Welcome to the Steel Curtain Podcast. It is Monday, November 3rd, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-3 after beating the Indianapolis Colts 27-20 in Week 9 at Acrisure Stadium. I'm Josh Yourish, and I'm back after missing yesterday's instant reaction show. If you missed it, go check out Mark Powell and Cody Williams, who did an excellent job breaking everything down. But I'm back to give my thoughts on what the Steelers should do with Tuesday's trade deadline, to assess Aaron Rodgers' performance on Sunday with the weekly Rodgers Report, and first, to break down the major adjustments the Steelers made to force 6 turnovers against Indy, the league's best offense, yesterday. And it starts with the safety play. And this is an area of contention for this defense coming into the week. The Steelers traded for Kyle Duggar midweek from the New England Patriots and got most of his contract voided. So while they did, swap late round picks, I don't want to be giving up draft capital, but they didn't really surrender much to get a player that can help them this year. Okay, I'm fine with that. I haven't really shared my thoughts on that deal. I'm more fine with it after seeing what it allowed the Steelers to do on Sunday. And was this a Colts-specific game plan? Was this a Deshaun Elliott injury forcing this more than the Duggar trade? I don't know. But the Steelers completely changed how they play defense in Week 9, and I love what they're doing and what they did to get the Colts off schedule, an offense that has been historically good through 8 weeks in the NFL. So it was a really, really impressive performance. The Colts came in to Week 4 with 4 turnovers all season. The Steelers forced 6 on Sunday, and you heard me come on here after Week 3 when the Steelers forced 5 turnovers against the Patriots and narrowly won that game and say that's unsustainable. That's not a way to play defense. You can't win consistently that way. And while that was all true then and still is, this was different. This was not Ramondre Stevenson fumbling on the goal line. This was not Travion Henderson giving the ball away, just like bad fumbles. And yes, Cam Hayward tipped a ball at the goal line for an end zone interception in that one. Like, the Steelers forced some of those turnovers, but they also lucked into the fact that they recovered them, right? And that's always kind of a factor. Luck is always kind of a factor when you're looking at the turnover battle. It really, there wasn't anything lucky, fluky about this number. I mean, maybe Daniel Jones throwing the ball right to Peyton Wilson. You can say that's a little bit fluky considering who he's been as a quarterback this season with like a legitimate career resurgence with Steichen and in this offense. But this was caused by the Steelers defensive line and dominating in the trenches in a really unique way for everything we've seen about this team, about this coaching staff this season, how they're going to use this defense. And it goes back to the offseason moves, right? The Steelers sign Darius Slay. They trade for Jalen Ramsey. They have Joey Porter Jr. Obviously, that's not an offseason move, but it's part of the theory with this defense. Their thought was, now we can play a lot more man coverage. Now we can blitz a lot more. It doesn't matter if we don't have Minkah Fitzpatrick as our single high safety. He wasn't really forcing turnovers anymore. If we can man up with these guys on the outside, we're going to be fine. We can blitz a lot and get a lot of pressure. And what that's led to is Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, and Joey Porter Jr. routinely getting exposed in coverage without safety help over the top, a lot of explosive plays, and a lot of quick game beating them. So the defensive line, so the blitzes, everything can't get there to affect the game at all. And this week, the Steelers changed everything, not just with Jalen Ramsey playing free safety, which he almost exclusively did, which we didn't see this coming necessarily even with the Elliott injury and, question marks about Thornhill. But it's a kind of a pleasant surprise, right? I don't know that that's necessarily his best position yet in his career. I know he's kind of somebody who's going to age into that really well. His physicality, his ball hawking skills. As he loses a bit of a step in coverage, I think he's good there. I'd say he's better in the nickel, but for this secondary to work, I think its best version is with Ramsey at free safety, and he played 80% of the snaps there. The Steelers, after trading for Duggar, they kind of have two new safeties because of what Ramsey did. It was the first time in his career he played over 30% of the snaps at free safety. As I said, he played about 80% of them. The Steelers also played the most split safety coverage, so two deep safeties on the back end this season at 46.4%. Next Gen Stats had that. You've maybe heard that number going around. I might be a little bit late to it, depending on your Steelers podcast rotation, and because it's something people are really talking about. It's the biggest change schematically that the Steelers made on that side of the ball. They entered the week with the second lowest rate in the NFL at 28.2% per next gen stats tracking data. If you look at, FTN fantasy or, different metrics that you can see about tracking, FTN fantasy is where I go for it. About tracking coverages and usage, the Steelers play a ton of single high. It's not just cover three. They play a lot of cover one man, and really high rates, some of the highest rates in the entire NFL. And they flipped that on its head. They played a lot of cover two. I'm sure the numbers, their cover four usage is going to go way up compared to what it was most of the season. And the Colts, they took advantage of the cover two sometimes, right? Like they found the cover two honey hole along the sidelines, between the safety and the flat corner, the underneath corner. But that's preferred to deep shots over the top of Slay or over the top of Ramsey or Porter, or even just getting nickel and dime to death with the quick game and yards after the catch, because you don't have layers to the defense. You don't have bodies back there to rally and tackle. The current style of defense in the NFL that's most in vogue is this two deep safety, split field safety stuff, whether it be cover two, cover four, whatever. And it's because it keeps things in front. And that's why safety play has been somewhat devalued, because just simply having the two players back there is less stress on them. The Steelers haven't played that way. They've relied on safeties who are incapable of covering the amount of ground that Minka Fitzpatrick was, and are getting exposed or have been getting exposed for it. Now they're kind of just they came out of last week losing to the Packers, ate a big slice of humble pie and said, we got to change this up. We don't have the corners to play this much man coverage, this much single high. We got to make sure, just say, if we can't stop the run with light boxes, okay, we'll get killed that way, but we can't keep giving up explosives in the passing game. And that's what they did, and it worked really well. I mean, Daniel Jones still threw for 342 yards. A lot of that is game script dependent stuff, and a lot of that is still just, things that were kept in front of the Steelers. They had to march their way down the field more methodically, really long drives. And even if they were converting, it increases the chance that you're going to get a splash play. You're going to get a sack. You're going to get a strip sack, an interception, a forced fumble, something. You gave yourself more opportunities to create that chaos because the quarterback's holding onto the ball longer, because you're keeping them on the field longer. It's just a much better way for the Steelers to play defense, and it gave the time for the pass rush to get home. And that's all you need. Like, this should be a pass rush dependent team, not a blitz dependent team, a 4 or 5 man rush. We have enough good guys in the front that we're going to get home. And that's what happened against the Colts. Daniel Jones had a 2.71 second time to throw, and that was the highest of any Steelers opposing quarterback since Drake May in week 2 at 2.86. Some of that is game script dependent for both of those players, because those were two really high turnover games. But you get the high turnover games because they're holding on to the ball, because TJ Watt has more time to get there. Alex Highsmith has more time to get there. Those were, two of their biggest games as well as pass rushers. The Steelers also only blitzed on 28.6% of dropbacks, resulting in a 37.5% pressure rate and 4.7 yards per attempt for Jones. So they had more success for the blitz. They were getting torched blitzing earlier because they were playing so much man behind it. They were doing it so often. They were giving Flacco or Jordan Love the opportunity to just get the ball out quickly, out leverage their defenders in man coverage. And they clears up the picture for those veteran quarterbacks. They get the ball out quickly. They didn't do that for Jones. They said, sit back there and read this out, and you might have to take a 4-yard completion. We're going to rally and tackle and try again and try to see if TJ can get home or Highsmith can get home again. We're going to give them more opportunities to do that. And I love that game plan. I really do. This is not the type of defense that should be playing the high variance ball of blitz or bust, and it worked. The results bear it out. Like, this makes sense for this defense. I've been begging for these types of changes pretty much all season. So it's kind of coming a little bit late, but not too late. The Steelers are still leading the AFC North. I think this can be, while not like transformative in the realm of this is now a team that can win the Super Bowl, it does really raise the floor of this defense if they continue to play this way. Now, there's no guarantee that they're going to, but it's a meaningful change for the range of outcomes of this team, and it really takes off the table, like, in my opinion at least, if they can stop the run, because that's kind of the big question with this type of defense and why, Tomlin has been hesitant to play it, because the run fits up front have been so bad, and Keanu Benton's getting washed out, and Patrick Queen isn't a very good player. If they can stop the run to some effect, playing this way with 2 high safeties, this season isn't going to like unravel in the way that it looked like it was going to just a week ago. And is that good? Is that bad? Like, is that just prolonging the Tomlin of it all and the 9-win seasons? Maybe. But for this season in a vacuum, this is the right thing for this team to do, and Tomlin made that change. So credit to him. To the point of that quick passing game, right? And having layers to your defense and being able to rally and tackle compared to giving up catch and run craziness to Tucker Kraft or to Jamar Chase. Only 38.2% of Jones's dropbacks came in under 2.5 seconds. This is per PFF. And he went 13 for 20 for 117 yards with a touchdown and an interception. Those numbers sound like pretty good, somewhat efficient. But when you consider that his quarterback rating or, passer rating was 76.5 on those quick throws, and that ranks 21st of 23 quarterbacks that have played so far in week 9. Like, they were getting killed in the quick passing game, the rhythm passing game, and took that away with this schematic change of playing 2 deep safeties, playing more zone coverage, making the quarterback read things out a little bit, giving your pass rush more time to get home. It worked. Like, it worked really well. This is the type of stuff we've been calling for, and it worked really well. This is how you lean into the strength of your defensive line. If the weakness of your defense is the secondary, put more players in coverage. If the strength of your defense is the defensive line, don't blitz more, don't allocate more resources to that area of the field. That group needs to be able to win in 4-man rushes, and they did. Like, when they were given the time to do it. We've talked a lot about the pass rush in recent weeks, and after the Packers game, I kind of compared TJ Watt to Michael Parsons in the instant reaction, and like, okay, Parsons can be drive killing, and I don't know that TJ can do that quite as often anymore. And like, are those contracts? Parsons looks really good, although he didn't record a pressure this week against Carolina, and Watts doesn't, and he had a strip sack this week. So like, things change week to week. But talking about the pass rush, it hasn't really been an issue. It's just been a non-factor. Like, it's not that they've played poorly. They've just been negated by how quickly quarterbacks are getting the ball out of their hands. And that's because of the single high and the man coverage and the high blitz rate. It's just allowing them to spread and shred. And now when you force teams out of that, oh, look, Alex Highsmith is still great. Like, TJ Watt can still do it. Nick Herbig can get home. He had 2 pressures. Highsmith had 4 pressures in this one. He had a 16.1% pass rush win per PFF's numbers with the 4 pressures and 2 sacks. TJ Watt had 2 pressures, a 10% win rate by PFF, and the strip sack, which was massive. That was like so vintage TJ, getting around the edge, the dip and bend, and, being able to go after the football. I think he does that still probably better than anyone in the NFL in terms of pass rushers that just have a knack for attacking the ball. Jones didn't have much awareness on that one. He kind of, left it right in front of him and didn't react to the pass rush. But that's what happens when you win quickly enough, when you make a quarterback read things out. It just played to the strengths of this defense and its roster construction so much more. Jones, even when he wasn't pressured, because it wasn't like a massive pressure rate for this game, and some of that it gets wonky and not garbage time, but late when the Steelers are dropping more, and not that they blitzed a lot in general, but just you rush with a little more lane integrity when you don't want a quarterback to scramble in those late moments. You just kind of want to keep him hemmed in. So the pressure numbers aren't like off the charts, but it felt like he was just constantly in a muddy pocket or a condensing pocket. They didn't let him get loose to create plays out of structure. Like, they had really good rush lane integrity, and with being able to get them off schedule, because the Colts are a team that like throws to get ahead. They're really aggressive, passing over expectation on first and second down. Like, they really want to push the ball downfield, and it's been super effective. I think that's a great way to play offense. And then they'll run you to death once they get the lead with Jonathan Taylor and that offensive line that can lean on you. But in this one, the Steelers were able to get them out of game script, right? Some of that is the randomness of like that Josh Downs muffed punt. And, that doesn't lead to points, but the turnovers, and you kind of luck into a good game script, not luck because they're forcing those turnovers, but just you force them into a situation where they're behind the sticks more, they're behind in the game more, they have to throw a lot, and then you can unleash your NASCAR packages, getting your 3 edge rushers on the field with Herbig, Highsmith, and Watt. And Herbig got a lot of reps going against guards, and I love that. If you can create that one-on-one matchup, it's fairly easy to do with, you don't even have to bring a blitz to create those one-on-ones in the interior. You just put your 3 edges out there, you show a sim pressure, drop somebody out, you're going to get a miscommunication. Sometimes in those situations, they stand up Hayward near the edge, just like misaligning things because your run fits just aren't so important in 3rd and 11. You can get more funky with it. And the Steelers actually are. Like, I've criticized they don't play enough games, they don't run enough stunts, and they don't. Like, a lot of their blitzing is just, now we bring 5, now we bring 6, and it's still like just a straight rush, and they're trying to overwhelm with numbers. I think you can create pressure in a multitude of ways, even if you're not blitzing. But they did get more creative when they got Jones into a game script that was favorable for that pass rush to do those kind of things. And even Keanu Benton was really good on the interior as a rusher. Cam Hayward, swatting passes, and he's just such a good player still at this point in his career. He had a really good pass rush win rate, especially on true pass sets. And those are situations where he can kind of sell out because he has to be such a disciplined run defender the way this defense is constructed. And yesterday he didn't have to do that as much. So he can be a little bit more impactful as a pass rusher. And that all stems from playing more too high. Like, how simple that seems, but the structure of your defense, living in more shell zones, it gives you those opportunities. And yes, you have to stop the run, because the way to lose to, playing that way is you have light boxes and they run it down your throat. And the Steelers stopped them, right? Like, the Steelers did a really good job stopping the run. Some of it was game script. But Taylor ended up with just 45 yards on 14 carries. The Colts in general ended up at 2.9 yards per attempt. Like, that's massive. If you can stop the run that way, playing too high, especially when one of those 2 players is Ramsey, who I think is your best tackler in the secondary, and you would like to have him around the line of scrimmage for run fits and things of that nature, you're in a really good spot. And maybe this was just Steichen has torched them in the past, so I won't say like this was a good matchup for them against Steichen. Last year with Flacco, he just really ate their cover 3 alive because Flacco knows where the bodies are buried there, or where the bones are. Like, he just knows the answers constantly. And so he gets the ball out of his hand so quickly. We saw it against Cincinnati. It was the same thing. And he also torched them with the Eagles, completely different offense, but he runs a lot of like spread concepts. He's not the most condensed formation guy. And I think the Steelers do tend to struggle against those offenses that can get into more condensed formations because it gets Joey Porter Jr. or Darius Slay into the run fit more. And the Colts just really didn't do that. They didn't run the ball a lot in general, but they definitely didn't do a lot of that. So maybe like that's a slightly favorable matchup in the run game for the Steelers to play too high, and maybe they'll get exposed more later by other offenses now that they've seen the Steelers play defense this way. Again, assuming they stick with this, which they absolutely should. But it was a really good performance in that aspect in terms of stopping the run. And then I already mentioned this, but like having layers to your defense, it can seem counterintuitive, right? Because I'll give an example of run game stuff. Last season, the Rams gave up so many yards and so many explosive plays to Saquon Barkley, both in the playoffs and in the regular season. Like when they matched up against the Eagles absolutely gashed them. And a lot of that was the Rams knew they had to stop Barkley, knew they were going to have trouble doing it. They brought a lot of bodies around the line of scrimmage, right? You just stack the line, stack the box, bring safeties down, corners closer to the line of scrimmage. Like you just get people involved. But that can stop like down to down efficiency sometimes, but it also leaves you open to just gashes because if Barkley gets a hole, now he's got one man to beat instead of three, right? It's just a foot race and he's not going to lose that. The pass game can be similar, right? Like short completion, you only have one safety back and he got influenced by something on the other side of the field. Okay, now Tucker Kraft is loose. Now Jamar Chase is loose. But if you're playing two high safeties, you're playing a little more zone. You're playing more of this shell coverage. And I don't know what their cover 4 rate was exactly, but it was definitely more than normal and definitely a lot of cover 2, which Tomlin was originally like a Tampa 2 guy. So he knows how to do this. You now have layers. So those short completions, yes, they may still get them, right? He went 13 for 20 and on under 2.5 second dropbacks. Daniel Jones did in this one. But it didn't go for a ton of yards because they rallied and tackled. Right now, you have Ramsey back there, and I think Duggar did a fairly good job. Peyton Wilson was all over the place making tackles. So Tyler Warren was held in check. The Colts still went after Patrick Queen. Like the Steelers' corners didn't suddenly get better. Patrick Queen didn't suddenly get better in coverage. He still got picked on. He allowed 6 catches on 8 targets as the nearest defender. But the Steelers as a team only allowed 93 yards after the catch. They gave up 246 yards after the catch to the Packers last week, 93 to the Colts. They gave up 162 to the Bengals. 93 yards after the catch is the lowest since allowing 75 in week 1 versus the Jets and Justin Fields. And that is not like those are not comparable offenses whatsoever between the Jets and the Colts. The Colts are so much better. You layer your defense, you limit explosives, you limit yards after the catch, you limit, big runs and breakaways. Like, yes, this was game script stuff that got weird on the Colts, and it was their first time playing on grass. I believe it's the first time playing on grass. First, like, really hostile road game situation, definitely on, like, bad grass conditions because they changed the turf at Acrisure, and it is not looking any better. So that allows Tomlin to kind of drag them down into the mud a little bit. But I think the best way to drag teams in the mud is play a little bend, don't break defensively. Like play a little, keep things in front of you. You're going to have to nickel and dime us in this cover 2. And we're going to make you hold on to the ball so our pass rushers can get home. Right? Like I complain about the Steelers playing like their spot drop cover 3 and that getting carved up. That doesn't limit explosives. Like teams are getting to explosives and getting to yards after the catch against that stuff. The Steelers talked about, like you heard Tomlin, you heard TJ Watt, like leading up into this, they're simplifying things on defense. And I think that definitely happened in terms of like man coverage. The miscommunication issues weren't quite there. They're playing, a lot more cover 2 stuff. They're not rotating in the secondary, maybe quite as much. But it's also just a structural thing, like, just how the miscommunication issues to me were, yeah, you're playing a defense that can be easily out-leveraged, and teams know how to find the answers for this. So they're creating the miscommunications. And now I think you're negating them by the defenses you're playing. So some of that is simplifying, but it's also just like changing. Like simplifying to me means we're just running more of what we typically do. So that would be like cover one man or cover three. They didn't really, maybe they simplified in terms of coverage rotations post snap or trying to disguise things like different looks. But it wasn't simple. It was a whole new defense, whole new defensive structure with Ramsey at safety, playing the split safety stuff. So I don't know if it's simplifying. Like I just think it was a structural change that worked really well. And I love what they did. Like the way they've allocated resources in the front seven says they should be able to stop the run with light boxes. The way Keanu Benton has played at nose and Patrick Queen has struggled at the second level, like who knows if they will, but the way this roster is built, they should be able to stop the run with light boxes with two deep safeties. And I think that fixes a lot. Like, even if Ramsey's kind of playing out of position, even if he's not truly ready yet to be that full-time deep safety, like aging into his Charles Woodson phase, maybe you got to expedite it because that's how your defense is best. Like, I still like him best at the nickel, even though I have some issues with him in coverage. And like, I think, JSN really got him early in the season. But if Brandon Eccles is a better nickel than Juan Thornhill or Jabril Peppers are a free safety, then, when and if Deshaun Elliott comes back, you can have Ramsey at the nickel, you can move things around. But if right now your best alignment is Ramsey at free safety, leave him there. Because I think you need to see if this has some real legs. And maybe Ramsey's a safety. And then you traded Minka for another safety. And I don't love that. But if it ultimately led them to a place of playing more too high, playing, blitzing less, and not trying to win in man coverage so much, okay, like I guess, that's their journey. And I don't hate where it resulted because I think they had a lot of structural issues in the secondary for a year and a half running. And if this ultimately starts to fix them, then that move is worthwhile. And like the path to get there is kind of worthwhile, even though I still don't think it'll net a playoff win or a Super Bowl or anything like that. But then I'm interested to see what it does look like when and if Elliott comes back. Like I've been down on Tomlin for being outdated, not being with the times, especially in terms of defensive schematics. There are issues in terms of fourth down decisions and things like that that are disastrously bad, and that's not fixed. But I've been begging for this change, and it came. So I got to give him credit for it. Like that was one of Tomlin's best coaching jobs of the season, one of the defensive staff's best coaching jobs of the season. And the defense won that football game. And it's not, yes, I always say you can't be so turnover reliant, and you can't. But you can also create a whole lot more turnovers if you're playing more zone and you're making quarterbacks hold on to the ball longer and drives, be 10 plays instead of 2, because you have more chances for your great defensive line to get home. So it's, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. Like, did the defense play better because they got turnovers, or did the defense play better and cause turnovers? I think this one, like, if you make me put them in buckets, like the Patriots one was the defense played better and looked better because it got turnovers. This one was the defense played better and caused turnovers. They created them in this game. I don't really think it was fluky. And I just really liked the way they played. And I don't know that I've said that other than the Browns game all year, because I really liked that defensive game plan. And even that one, there were opportunities, just a lot of drops for the Browns in that game. So this was a really, really encouraging defensive performance from a team that desperately needed it. And like, I'm going to move the goalposts a little bit because this was the best offense in the NFL. It's also still Daniel Jones. Like, can we say that? Probably. Let's see it against Lamar. Let's see it against, some of the better quarterbacks. But if you play this way, I think you have a better chance to stop them. So I'm into these changes. They're major, major adjustments on the defensive side of the football. And it raises both the ceiling and the floor for this team and in probably a meaningful way, right? I still think they're going to win 9 games, and I haven't wavered off of that. They're going to find a way to it. They're already, looking like they're heading down that path at 5-3, and they're leading the AFC North. I feel better about it being something of a real race in the AFC North now that they have kind of switched things up on defense and are running a defense that I've been really wanting them to run all season. So, um, the major adjustments equal to major upset, and that's really exciting. Before we get to the Rodgers Report, everybody's favorite, the weekly Rodgers Report, if you're a fan of Steelers football and the Steel Curtain podcast, please consider subscribing to the YouTube page or wherever you get your podcasts. We really appreciate your support. You can also follow me at Yourish3 on Blue Sky. We have 3 shows a week going right now. Instant Reactions, which are typically me and Mark Powell. I was not there yesterday, so you're getting some more of my thoughts today in this one. My deep dives on Monday, and then Tommy Jagai and Shane Kubis on Wednesdays, previewing the next week, breaking down the past week, giving you really everything. We had 4 shows last week, so check out the extra show that Tommy and Shane did with a very special guest as well. And I'll have a special guest coming up in a little bit. It's Shane Kubis. I'll ruin the surprise right now, but we're going to talk some NFL trade deadline. Before that, though, the Rodgers Report. Not my favorite performance from Aaron Rodgers. This looked like some early season Steelers offense, and that is a concern. For all the great stuff the defense did, they may not win this game without all 6 of those turnovers, right? Like you might have needed every one of them. Rodgers finished 25 for 35 for 203 yards, a touchdown, and 3 sacks. That does not sound like a bad stat line. The underlying numbers are what is concerning. Rodgers was 0 for 1 on throws over 20 yards downfield in the air. He had a 2.32 second time to throw with a 60% pressure to sack ratio and a 3.3 yard average depth of target. That sounds like an old quarterback that doesn't want to get hit to me and can escape pressure, can extend plays. There were quick throws, one at Gainwell's back that went for a crucial incompletion. The one to Washington, that was more on Darnell because, near the goal line, that quick slant that hit him in the numbers. It was a great throw from Rodgers. Washington didn't really get his head around, but it was out like quick. And there were quite a few throws that just Rodgers, maybe you got to take an extra, even a half a beat, not a full one, but like be willing to stand in there a little bit more. I felt like he was really bailing from the pocket in this one, and did not move very well when there was pressure. And that's, again, that play specifically is on Washington. The Gainwell one, though, he had that little option route. They didn't let him get out of it at all, just threw it at his back. Like, okay, maybe Gainwell get your head around, but let him run his route. Like, what the route is. He's got a two-way release. Let him get out of it. Let him get his head around. And he would have had space to run after that one on that specific play. Only 5 pressure dropbacks. So, that could say the offensive line played really well. And I think Troy Fautanu really did. Looking at the film, he looks good. Him and McCormick on that right side, I think they pass off stunts really well. I think they work together, really nicely in pass protection. PFF would agree with their grades of this one, especially pass protection for both those guys. And I think Fautanu, his athleticism is really starting to kick in as he gets more comfortable against NFL rushers and on the right side. I think, he could be a real good one. I think that one is trending more towards this is a hit where Broderick Jones still really sloppy, still was a mess. I think, last week was maybe a step in the right direction against Parsons. Packers didn't really blitz at all. But this week was arguably a step back. I thought it was really sloppy and didn't look good. But the only five pressure dropbacks, as I was getting to, that's not really an offensive line stat. Like that's Rodgers is just getting the ball out real quick stat. And Rodgers was getting the ball out real quick. So like there aren't true dropbacks. There aren't a ton of true dropbacks in this offense where you can like get a good long look at the offensive line. But Rodgers didn't play well under pressure. He took the 3 sacks, 1 for 2 for 7 yards. He was blitzed on 41% of his dropbacks, which is a lot more than the Packers did. The Packers didn't really blitz the Steelers at all. And Rodgers has been fairly good against the blitz this year, and that makes a lot of sense. Like it clears things up. He knows he can get it out to a hot route. Like he knows where to go with the football, and he sees the extra rushers throw into that void. Like, he's a 41-year-old quarterback that's a multi-time MVP, 4-time MVP. He's gonna carve that. But in this game, he averaged 3.7 yards per attempt on those blitz dropbacks, and I think there's a reason for it. Like there was basically nothing downfield. It makes sense. Like Lou Anarumo, he's known for like the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs when he played a ton of drop 8 in the second half, and Mahomes just didn't have anywhere to go with the ball. He has very like bespoke game plans week to week. He's not a cover 3 guy or a cover 4 guy. Like he's just each week he's gonna have something different cooked up, and even series to series he's gonna throw different things at you. He rotates safeties post snap as much as anyone. He disguises coverages a lot. That can lead to some busts in coverage and some big plays, but only if you have the time to diagnose it and recognize what you're actually getting. And that's kind of his whole goal. Like he wants to make even the veteran quarterbacks take an extra beat to figure out what they're reading through. And he believes that by then his pass rush will be there. Against Rodgers, that's a really good game plan. Like I think this was a particularly rough matchup for Rodgers because of that aspect where, he's best when he sees it, gets it out, and there really isn't much he hasn't seen. He's going to decipher it, but if it takes an extra half second with the safeties rotating, he doesn't want to turn the ball over. Okay, now he feels pressure because that internal clock has just sped up so much, and he tries to climb. He tries to get the ball out to a check down. Like it led to a really low average up the target, a ton of check downs, and just a really pretty ugly performance that I don't feel particularly great about. The touchdown throw to Freiermuth, like that was a really good throw. He protected his receiver, kind of put it on his back hip a little bit. Like he still has all that stuff, but it wasn't his best day. And it's not really about how he throws the football. Like that's not part of this analysis very often because that's not ever really Rodgers' issue at this point or at any point in his career. Like he's still got the arm to make all the throws. It's just like how willing are you to sit in there? Where are you at in terms of your athleticism and your ability to create after that 2.5 seconds or in that second reaction play? This is a defense designed to make him kind of get to that. And he just couldn't in this one. He could against the Bengals, and it looked really good. That team has no pass rush. Like they're never going to get there against you, even if it is a 4-second drop back. Against the Packers, they didn't really blitz him much at all. And, they relied on the run game a fair bit early in that one. Things spiraled with game script, and that was really more about the defense. But like the points they put up 27 points. They came off of drives that started on their own 44 off a fumble recovery, which led to a touchdown. The Indy 14 off an interception, which led to a touchdown. Their own 18, which was a field goal drive, which was a really, like a long sustained drive, but their own 44 off an interception for a touchdown, and the Indy 44 off a fumble recovery for a field goal. So just one of their drives that ended with points was, not off of a turnover. So I'm not going to sound the alarm about this offense. Seomalu goes out in the second half, so Anderson has to go to left guard, and I really worry about, like, what do they have if they don't have the jumbo stuff? I think they can still get to a fair bit of it with Darnell Washington because he is just such a good blocker, run and pass blocker. Like, I think eventually he's a left tackle, and he's going to be amazing at it. But right now he's just this awesome weapon in both the run and pass game. So you can get to like some of your 3 tight end stuff without Anderson out there. But I just like when they can load up a side and kind of maul you with the pitch game and some pin pull stuff because you have athletes out there and you have wide receivers that are willing to block. Like that kind of stuff is what this offense is to me at its best. And then some play action off that, some deep something. Like they're not really getting to like the Arthur Smith deep crosser stuff. But if you can stretch the field vertically a little bit and you can run the ball, like you're going to get heavy boxes. So you can take those one-on-one shots to DK. Like that's this offense at its best. And they're not really able to get to it so much if they don't have that jumbo stuff. So I worry about that, but I don't think it's like terrible. But the last 2 weeks, we have seen teams key in more on the quick passing game and try to like speed Rodgers up to make him become a check down artist. And he's kind of taken the bait on it. So I'm a little bit concerned about that going forward. I just don't think I think it was Rodgers' worst performance in weeks, but that's kind of lost in we didn't talk about how well he had maybe played at the recent couple games because of how poorly the defense played. Now the defense plays really well. It kind of overshadows him the other way. And we'll see, if he's more needed to be leaned on, how he's able to perform and how that offense is able to perform together. That offense, maybe it's getting a boost. Who knows? There have been some reports about potentially adding at the trade deadline, and we're making a big time addition midway through the show, welcoming on Shane Kubas to talk about the Steelers at the trade deadline. Before that, I know you're going to break everything down with Tommy on Wednesday, but I was just kind of talking about that offense and, losing the jumbo stuff for the second straight week with Sayamalu going out. Do you have any thoughts about, how Rodgers played, how the run game performed, just everything on that side of the ball?
I think Rodgers definitely had his most and you said it earlier when I was listening to the show before I came on, he had one of his most old man games that we've seen from him in a while where it's like, man, I don't want to get touched today. Like, I certainly don't. And the funny thing is, he did take that hit when he was like clearly debating, am I going to run this in or am I not? And then realizing I'm not going to make it, and then just gets kind of crushed at the end near the goal line. But that was certainly the game plan. It felt like for him was like, I do not want to get hit by these guys. I'm going to take my check downs. I'm going to throw the ball short. And again, like, it was enough in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly was probably their worst offensive performance in a while. Overall, especially the run game. And that's kind of where you get into the jumbo package and the lack thereof kind of later in the game when Siamalo went out. And man, this team, when they don't go to that, they're just not very good at running the football right now. They really aren't. And it was very evident in this game.
Before we get to I want to stay on that. Like, what do you, to me, like, I think they lose a lot of, I mentioned like the athleticism on the edge, the pin pull kind of stuff they do, the pitches, like they've kind of diversified the run game with that stuff in the jumbo stuff. But like, do you think it's just Broderick kind of setting the edge on those outside zones? Like, what is the issue that you're seeing with them not being able to run the ball when they don't have Anderson as the 6th offensive lineman?
I think a big part of it sometimes is the fact that like so many of our runs are starting from depth, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
where like it's not just the straight power stuff up the middle where Warren has a head of steam going in a positive direction, and it creates a lot of negative plays, right? Like you saw the one play where Gainwell just got hawked down immediately because the linebacker, I think it was, saw it coming and actually I think it was Cross, maybe. I can't remember who made that tackle, but just came right through the middle of the offensive line and
I
got
think
his
it was
foot.
Pratt, but
It
they
was
just
the
split
linebacker.
right between
Because they saw it coming,
the
right?
left tackle and the left guard, and
so they just beat him to the spot, and then you get minus 8-yard rush, right? There's too many times where I feel like they're allowing negative plays because they're stringing things out, they're tossing, and when the toss is working, it's great. I love it. Last year, a lot of people had the same problem with that play of like, man, this play sucks. And I actually did a deep dive into it about like 14 weeks into the year, and it was getting like average, like it was like 3.9 yards per carry. The problem was it was either getting 15 or it was getting 2 or 10 or 0 or so. It was a very boom or bust play, which it generally is for a lot of teams. But that is a big problem because you saw like we averaged like 1.7 or whatever yards per carry it was. A lot of it was because the negative runs, right? There was a couple of nice runs from Jalen, and we obviously got the 2 touchdowns, but a lot of it was just them not even getting back to the line of scrimmage.
The question now is, would a wide receiver 2 maybe fix the issues on this offense? Ian Rappaport kind of reported a list of potential targets: Jacoby
Mhm.
Myers, Rashid Shaheed of the Saints, Jalen Waddle of the Dolphins, maybe possible trade options. There have been reports, I think Rossini said that the Raiders would want a really high price for Myers. Florio said the Saints are looking for like a third for Shaheed, which is what you say when you're shopping somebody.
Yeah, that's
That's
what you
not going to
say.
happen.
No.
Schefter saying Waddle's highly unlikely to be moved, which is also what you say when you want to drive up the price. But I actually kind of believe they probably wouldn't want to move on from him with the
No.
uncertainty of Tyreek Hill. But like wide receiver 2 is the position that everyone's kind of talking about with the Steelers. Are there even enough targets to go around?
That's kind of the crux of the issue, and I've said for really this whole season, because this has been a topic since, training
Mhm.
camp of, like,
Yeah,
who's
oh,
gonna be
yeah.
receiver 2 on
Since
this team?
last training camp, really, when it was
Really, yeah.
Pickens and Ayuk and everything.
Realistically,
Yeah.
yeah, so but I think the problem ultimately is, are they going to be able to effectively add to this receiver room and actually make them valuable,
Mhm.
right? Because someone like Shaheed, for example, there's no shot. They're
Yeah.
not going to incorporate this guy into the offense in an effective way. I just do not believe them if they were to say that. So he's kind of one I'm not even looking at. Jacoby Myers is the guy that I think, if you're just looking at it from a skill set perspective,
Mhm.
contested catches, third downs, the ability to work from the slot or out wide, the toughness aspects of that guy. Like, he is that true, like, gritty, like, receiver 2 style guy. And this is someone who's had
Mhm.
1,000 yards with the Raiders, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a good player who also just happens to have a skill set that is usually kind of affiliated with guys who you don't talk a lot about, right?
Yeah.
He makes a ton of sense schematically. The problem is, are you going to give him more than 4 targets a game? Are you going to be able to find ways to use him effectively where he's not averaging 7 yards per catch, right? Like, that's ultimately the issue, because they keep wanting to go to Metcalf and those, like, gotta have it contested situations. And
Mhm.
newsflash, everybody, not his game. I
Yeah.
know he's huge. He looks like a freak. He simply isn't good at those things. Like, he's like 1-2 for his last 8 contested catch situations. It's not his game.
Mhm.
That's something that you could, at least in the middle of the field, like, obviously down the field, Myers is not going to be that kind of guy. It is what it is. But if you have got to have it third down situations, he's the kind of guy you want on your team. But that's what the tight ends have kind of been for, right? Are you
Yeah.
going to start taking targets away from them? You're already having a hard enough time getting them involved consistently. Like, I just don't know what price I'd be okay with paying, not knowing for sure that they're going to be able to get him 5, 6, 7 targets a game.
Yeah, for me, there like kind of isn't one.
Yeah.
Part of that is how I feel that like this team ultimately doesn't, even if you add Jacoby Myers, who would be like the one I'd want, and he's been a name that's been circulating for the
Hmm.
Steelers for a while. He does, to me, he's kind of the idealized version of Roman Wilson in that he's like bigger and the toughness as a blocker, and sits down in zone really well. Like
Yeah.
kind of that idealized player a little bit. Maybe not the speed element,
Right.
but
Wilson has more juice, but yeah.
yeah, but kind of more what they want from that player.
Hmm.
And I think the best version of this offense is when it's so part to my first point, I don't think they can win the Super Bowl.
No.
So just like keep your powder dry because you
Yeah.
need a quarterback long term. If you had a quarterback, even if I didn't see the high end ceiling on this team, okay, I'd be fine with it. Like develop the guy and
Yeah,
whatever.
more weapons is good. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's not an issue. And then to the other point, I think this offense is at its best when it's its weirdest. And I
Yes.
think we see that with like the jumbo stuff, with all the Darnell Washington stuff. Like force a team to get heavy. You can still throw the ball that way. You can run it pretty well. You dare them to bring a safety down, and now maybe you can actually hit a go ball to DK. Like I just think it's their most idealized version, and spending capital to get away from that more doesn't make any sense to me.
No, unless you're going to fundamentally change the offense in the way that it is structured and has worked so far this year, which,
Yeah.
when they brought in Jonnu Smith, in addition to the Titans they already had, when they brought in DK and then replaced, like, that was who they used to replace
Mhm.
George. Like, it seemed very clear, like, they want to get into heavy packages. They want to run the football effectively because they haven't been able to do so in a few years. And they
Mhm.
want to be able to throw over the top of those heavy formation defenses with DK Metcalf, and even up the seam with guys like Jonnu Smith. It hasn't happened as much as they wanted to, but it's still clearly their best option
Uh-huh.
offensively, is to get into those situations. The problem again ultimately is that if you can't do it, especially with the jumbo package, if you have injuries on the offensive line, what are you now offensively?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is the actual best game plan for you? Because right now, like, unless you can get DK in space, he's just not a great player. He just isn't. Like, unless you can get him in the run after catch situations, which he's by far having his best like yards after catch season. But that's because
Yeah.
of where he's being targeted, right? Like
Mhm.
they're trying to get him on a track essentially. And you saw it in the Vikings game, he can score from anywhere. You have to be able to do that with him. But if you're not in heavy packages, it's harder to do that. Obviously, there's more bodies in the secondary, more traffic for him to navigate. It just all makes it very hard when you can't go to the jumbo package.
Yeah, it feels fragile almost by design, like fragile in terms of like there's a thin way for this all to
The
be
margin for error
successful.
is very small.
Yeah, and I don't think trying to incorporate a Jalen Waddle, like I'm not really entertaining that as like being real, but
No,
like I don't think anything about that. Yes, maybe he's a better like yak option, like kind of speed. Like if you're gonna throw somebody some screens, I'd rather it be him than what they have.
mhm.
But I don't. I just don't see them incorporating a player like that at this point in the season, making things better. I just feel like it would make it even more clunky than it already can be.
The potential for that is high. Like again, like Waddle is a good player. I think he is kind of a specific player in a lot of ways, though,
Uh-huh.
which again, like most wide receiver twos are very specific in their usage, right? Or they're just pretty good at everything, but not good enough to be, wide receiver one. Whatever
Jacoby
category,
Myers.
yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever category you fall into, like that's fine. But I think for the Steelers, like unless you could get a true like difference making wide receiver one that would then allow DK to be, and I'll just say this, I know he's making $32 million. I think DK is as best as a wide receiver too. I do.
Mhm.
People can disagree with
I
me if
don't
they want
really
to.
disagree with you because I think
Yeah.
while he's very good at the one thing he does, he's very limited to that one thing.
That's the problem with him
Yeah.
ultimately is he doesn't have the balanced skill set that you would ideally want in a wide receiver one, right?
Yeah.
And again, how many guys technically fit that category? We can debate that all we
Like it's
want.
not a ton, but
Not
he's also
really.
not somebody you can just like funnel targets to
You
get you out
can't
of a jam. Like he
because
he he
yeah,
doesn't have reliable enough hands.
no,
He the contested catch thing you talked about, like
right.
you can't game on the line be like, "Oh, DK's down there somewhere, he'll come up with it."
Yeah, you
Because
can't do that.
it's really not going to happen. So, I agree with you about that.
For sure. And because of that, like if you had that guy, if that
Mhm.
guy was out there, great. Then you could trade for that guy no matter what your situation is. I'm never going to be mad at you because like you
Yeah.
don't get many of those. They're not getting that. AJ Brown's not coming through the door. Like the
No.
Eagles are not doing that. I know that was a thing for a while and then it's fine now. But like that if that's not happening, I'm okay if they don't add anything at receiver. Honestly, the thing I'm most mad about is the fact that Roman Wilson fumbled that football because I think that he could have been the Steelers receiver too. But
Yeah.
as soon as that happened, I already know Tomlin's never letting that man see the field again. I feel
I
like
know, and I didn't mention that fumble
uh,
like because it ultimately came to nothing, but
it
like
did, yeah. Well, luckily, but
man, what a bad mistake.
it was
And
a
like
mistake for
situational
sure.
football is obviously
Yeah,
like very important,
but he doesn't
but
get
that's like
touches, man. Like he wants to show he could play, and it feels
yes,
like
this is one of my few opportunities I got to make
yeah,
something of. Like I'm desperate to prove that I could belong
yeah.
on the field. He's a good player.
He
Like I
is. He
really
really
have
is.
seen a lot from Wilson this
Mhm.
season that I really like. So I agree like just let him develop. Like it's
Yeah,
fine. Let your young guys develop at some point and see
yeah.
if he's going to be somebody you spend some money on.
Mhm.
And the best path to that like wide receiver one is through the draft.
It
Like
is. It is.
they're probably not going to be drafting high enough to get like the bona fide for sure one, but hell, Puka became one quickly. Like, that's
Yeah.
random, but
Right.
you
Steelers
need
do have a
cracks that,
history of doing this, though. To be
yes,
fair, like,
exactly. And you need darts to throw if you're
yeah.
going to try to do that. Like, you need, chances. And so keep your powder dry, keep your picks, is my opinion.
Mhm.
If they were going to make a move,
Mhm.
I would say like corner is for sure where they need to do it. I
Yeah.
don't see as we just talked about for 10 minutes. I don't see the logic in the wide receiver stuff. I would definitely see the logic in a corner, especially playing the way they were prior to this week. I don't know if they're going to live in too high. I don't know if they're going to go back to cover one man, like,
Yeah.
live and die by it. But corner is probably like the most important, most pressing need on this defense or on this team in general, which is crazy because it's the most expensive defense in the NFL. But like, who are they going to get? Roger McCreary already moved. Jair Alexander, who like can't play anymore, but like he moved to the Eagles. I just don't know what is actually out there. Any good corner is not really on the market.
That's kind of the problem is like if you were going to add to this team right now, that's where you start as a
Yeah.
secondary,
Is that where
specifically
that's where
corner.
you would start as well?
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
Darius Slay, I'm sorry.
It's just not
Retire, bro.
Yeah.
Do the
I
whatever Vontae Davis thing, quit at halftime, retire. Do it. I'm sorry.
when I saw him on the ground and like it didn't look like it was in the first half. It didn't look like anything specific hurt. I think
He's
he was just like, ow. Like
he hurt. He is on the ground for like
constant.
10 seconds every game. And
Yeah.
it's like, buddy,
It's
take your
okay.
10 million and run, man.
Yeah,
I
dude,
will not
it's
blame you.
okay. Just
Let's
hang
do
it
it.
up, man.
Yeah,
Like it's all
over.
right. You've had a great career. Just yeah, I literally as soon as when he was down like that in the first half, I was like, yes, just hang it up at halftime. Like it is done. Live with Brandon Eccles, even James Pierre. Like he's not a good player, but
Yeah,
whatever. Like take your chances
he's
there.
out there sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, like he's a body. He's a warm
He
body.
is,
But
yeah.
I don't. I just don't know. Like, is there anything out there for them at corner?
I mean, the only two names that come to mind, and like, unfortunately for them, but fortunate for the team he plays for, he has had his two best games of the season in the last 2 weeks, so I don't think they're moving him. But Tariq Woolen would be interesting to
Mhm.
me. He's at least an athletic player that I think they could do some stuff with in their scheme. I really do. But he's struggled for a lot of the year, but then recently he's played better. So I think the Seahawks are probably like, well, we're not going to trade him now,
Mhm.
realistically. So that would be interesting to me, would add a lot of size and speed to the position. Alontae Taylor, the Saints, has kind of had his best year, even though it's still just okay. But he
Yeah.
is younger. He's more athletic than Slay obviously would be at this point. He'd probably be a pretty good upgrade. I don't even know really what that would cost. I don't even know if the Saints really want to move him though either, frankly. I have no idea what the Saints want to do. They
Yeah.
frustrate me, to be honest with you. Like, not saying Spencer Rattler's the world beater, but like, are Tyler Shuck, are we really doing this? Like, is
Oh
this what we're
man.
doing?
I like
Like,
a couple bad, like really 6 bad quarters, maybe of
comically
Rattler.
bad though, to be fair, like
Yeah, really
hilariously
bad.
cosmically bad.
Yeah,
But
but
like
like
it was
I don't know.
bad.
Rattler played pretty well. Like he didn't buy
He was.
any leeway.
That's the thing is like I'm sorry, you could say Spencer Rattler isn't the guy, and that's totally fine. I think he's significantly better than Tyler Shuck though.
I was never in on Shuck at all. Like
Me either. Not as a starter, especially.
no.
Like so that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But the Saints, I'm confused about them in general, as I typically am, but I do hope that they maybe make a couple moves, whether it's Shaheed going or whatever. Taylor's the only other one though I could really think of that I could see kind of going, but I don't know what he would even cost. So
This is kind of the reality of the NFL trade deadline is like we toss around names and say positions that everyone needs and you're like maybe AJ Brown could be on the move and like they never are. Like that doesn't
except
Jalen
for the
Phillips
Eagles,
is
they always get guys who
yeah,
aren't
Jalen
supposed to be on
Phillips
the
is
move.
like a pretty big one. But
Yeah.
I just don't feel like do you feel like there's gonna be a move? I feel like they've made their move with Duggar, and that's kind of gonna be it. And
I
maybe
wouldn't
that's
be
hoping,
shocked if
but
they do something like small and stupid again, like Mike Williams or something like
yeah.
similar to that. But at this point, I don't know. It's really hard to say with this team because they want to be buyers. You could tell,
Mhm.
like Mike Tomlin said, they're going to be buyers, and like yeah, Duggar technically you bought him, so
Yeah.
maybe that suffices. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Myers thing does ultimately happen. I just hope it's
Okay.
for like a day 3 pick is what I'm hoping. If it's more than
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna be like, guys,
Yeah.
what are we doing? But that could happen. A corner, like we said, the problem with corner is that if you have a corner on your team who is both young and good, you're certainly not getting rid of them
Yeah.
because it just doesn't make sense to do that in a world where corners aren't good most of the time.
Yeah.
So like
There
you're
just
probably
aren't
not
enough
getting
good
them.
ones to begin with. So why are
Exactly.
you
It's like
gonna get
offensive linemen. It's like, oh, I have
yeah.
this good offensive lineman who isn't playing a lot. It's like, well, I'm going to keep him though because eventually he's going to have to play.
Yeah, like we're gonna have
Like
to play a lot of these guys
so,
and there aren't very many good ones out there. So
yeah.
I agree. I don't think it's gonna be huge. I did anything for you, like we can kind of wrap on the deadline
Mhm.
stuff and maybe this is my last question, but did anything change for you with this game? Like the structural stuff on defense, I spent a lot of time talking about it
Yeah.
and I loved it. Like this is what we've been begging for.
Mhm.
But does it change anything about your outlook of this team?
I it's really hard because I think there's a specific pathway to maximizing what this team could be this
Mhm.
year, and you kind of alluded to it, but playing this style of defense against veteran quarterbacks, and more specifically, offensive coordinators who can dictate things to the defense very
Yeah.
often and can understand if you throw something at them, they have the answer for it, right?
Yeah.
Doing this type of defense or playing this way against those teams is their path to success, where you
Mhm.
do make the quarterback have to read the field. He can't just be like, oh, they're blitzing, boom, this is my hot read on this play. They're going to be open because they can't cover anybody.
Yeah.
When it's that simple, you were always going to be losing games. Like that's just what it was going to be. If
Mhm.
they can play this way against the more veteran quarterbacks and then also dial it up against the guys who can't handle that pressure, like, I don't know, a third round rookie who's 5'8" for the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns, like then you can have success with this defense. I think you can. The offense, though, I still think as good as it's been at times, there is just a ceiling on it
Mhm.
that just isn't particularly high. And I worry in a playoff environment, if they do make it in the playoffs, whether it's as the division leader or whatever, unless they get a specific matchup, I just don't know if this is a playoff win team. I really just don't. I
Yeah.
don't think it matters that much at this point.
I'm pretty much in the same place, and I kind of haven't wavered on it because I mean, I have a little bit. Last week was just a total disaster, but there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
always the chance that they do fix the schematic issues on defense,
Mhm.
and like there's enough talent we saw to make it kind of
The front
passable.
is still very good, and
Yeah, the
that's
front is still
yeah.
very good, and so on that ceiling for the offense, and we can leave it here. To you, is that a ceiling imposed by the quarterback or imposed on the quarterback?
I think that it's more about the quarterback overall. I still think it's kind of like a 60-40 situation
Mhm.
where there is a certain amount of limitations on the offense from a personnel perspective that
Mhm.
when you talk about, like you said, receiver two is kind of whoever happens to be good that week. And the tight ends are also kind of like, all right, who's good this week? Like it kind of feels like there's not a lot they can hang their hat on
Yeah.
offense is kind of the issue. And when you have a 41-year-old quarterback, not having something you can hang your hat on is not great,
Yeah.
kind of regardless of who that 41-year-old quarterback is. So I think Rodgers limits them in the sense that, yeah, like he's not going to hold the ball very long most of the time, unless the pass protection is just so good that he can just sit there and do it,
Yeah.
right? And that happens sometimes. But he's not going to be the play extender he was even 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15. He's not going to be a guy that is consistently being able to find open guys down the field as well as he used to when he was with the Packers, especially. And because of that, you're just going to be limited in most ways. Like you have to be able to
Mhm.
get the right matchups on offense. Specifically, that jumbo package has really helped them because again, they can lean on the run game in those
Yeah.
situations. If you can't get healthy on the offensive line by the time the playoffs roll around, I just don't know what you do, frankly,
Yeah.
against
I
playoff
I
defense.
don't really either. Like I think that's the only way they can dictate terms to teams. And
Yeah,
and
it's
I
that.
do feel like I think 60-40 is the right way to put it. Like if you had a better pass protecting offensive line where you could trust like longer developing dropbacks, maybe you can access more deep passing, but also you need the quarterback willing to stand in there regardless. And so I think it is kind of a half and half thing. And I've kind of been bouncing back and forth on that. Thank you so much for hopping on. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Chatting a little deadline and everything. You'll be back on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So everyone like and subscribe so you can get more of Shane, more of Tommy, more of me next week for an instant reaction. I will be back. No fiance birthday brunch
Yeah.
this time around. So we'll be back for the late night Steelers Chargers after Sunday night football. And we'll have content all throughout the rest of the season.
Yep.
So make sure you're subscribed. Until then, have a great one. And as always, go Steelers.